Hi everybody, Giselle Grenier here from artplace.ca. In today's video lesson, we're going to be creating a painting study of calm water with just a little bit of movement. And I have a reference photo that I'm going to be showing you. Now for this particular lesson, I've loaded it on my laptop. So for this lesson, you'll have access to the picture, and I've cropped it down just for a small area. So this is a primed piece of canvas paper. And I've got my gray palette paper on the side, and way down here I've got my palette, my colors on glass, too shiny to show on camera, so I'm going to be taking my paint and putting it onto here. And I'm going to be using the DecoArt premium acrylics, and these acrylics are compatible with any of the DecoArt paints, but ideally if you're using, let's say, the Traditions or the Fluid Media line, the colors are the same with the exception of Quinacridone violet. For Traditions, go to something like maybe red violet, or use a alizarin crimson, or permanent alizarin crimson. So I'm going to be using ultramarine blue, Quinacridone violet, Hansa yellow light, burnt sienna, and titanium white. And when priming the canvas, I just used the white gesso, thinned it down with a little bit of distilled water. So when I have a separate video on priming your canvas paper. For painting studies, don't use canvas or something. You usually have to store it. It's best to either do it in an art journal, or like I'm doing it on individual sheets of canvas paper. Then I bind it into a journal. That way I could do many studies and not have to wait for each page to dry. Because when I'm doing painting studies, especially in the heat that we're in right now, I don't really want to use the hair dryer, or the heat gun I should say. For brushes, use what you have, but what I'm using is a number 8 and number 4 flat. These are the Supreme, these are the natural bristle, and I'm using a number 8, number 4 Majestic. This is a Taklon, so it's a little bright brush, nice chisel edge. I'm using a number 4 round, and I'm using a mop brush, and this is going to be used to mesmerize the water. And I've got some paper towel on the side. I've got my brush container over here, so I'm just going to dampen my brush a little bit. And what I'm going to do is just going to dampen the surface. You can also use mister. You may not have to do this. I'm doing this only because of how hot it is. I had the air conditioner on for a little bit to cool it off. With the studio lights, it just gets hot again. So I've got water on there, and I'm going to put on some titanium white, and you can use gesso for this stage as well. So just titanium white, pure titanium white. Now if it's really hot where you are, you could also use extender. Extender will thin your paint a little bit, but it won't leave any residue behind, so it'll be, when it evaporates, you'll be left with paint. Now I've got this at an angle, hopefully you can see the shine. I see something here. I think that's just darkness showing through the canvas paper. All right, on your dirty brush, I'm going to pick up some ultramarine blue. And all I'm doing is basically getting rid of the white. So as I'm painting, I'm not going up and down, I'm not going straight across like this. I'm using these wide strokes. The brush is flat this way. You want to use the bigger the brush, the better. That's ideally what you want to do. And when you're coming down to the front, you want it to be a little bit darker. You want all these different colors. So see how I did here? Now it's got all this rough part. Just kind of feather that out. Add a bit more dark. So with that, now in the brush, I'm going to pick up a little bit, just a tiny bit of the Quinacridone violet. I'm going to come up here, and all it's doing is adding a little bit of dark, just another speck. You notice I'm not even doing any color mixing yet on the palette. I'm going right over where the dark parts are, just the tiniest amount. And let's bring a little bit more here. And this is just one way of doing it. Depending on your photograph, like what you have around, you're going to be reflecting stuff in the water as well. Okay, I'm just going to rinse my brush now. Put that aside. I'm going to go to the smaller bristle now. Now I'm going to pick up a little bit of yellow in my brush. And I'm going to pick a spot. So I'm thinking I want my, my water to be a little bit more green on this side right here. Yeah, that looks like a lot, eh? But don't worry. As you blend that in, it turns green. Now you can also do this with phthalo blue. The Quinacridone violet just helps neutralize it a little bit. And I'm going to pick up a little more blue, go back over that. And you see where I'm painting, I'm going over different areas. I'll put a little bit more blue up here. Always these little wide strokes. Now, if you wanted to paint choppy water, you would make these strokes really, really wide. Let me darken this area up a little bit more. Now, this is starting to dry a little bit, so my choice is I either have to let it dry or I can mist it with water and keep going. I'm going to see how far I can push this. What you don't want is the paint to get tacky, because if you paint with your paint is tacky, then it's going to lift up. And you don't want that to happen. I'm going to pick up a little bit more white. You can use gesso. And because the paints that we're using are so close together, they naturally go together. Pick up a little bit more white. This is drying. And the white just adds that nice reflection in the water. And we're just creating layers right now. I want this area right here. Now, although I'm providing a lot of reference photographs, you use whatever you want. I'm just using it for inspiration. So I want this area kind of being light. And now I'm going to take yellow and blue. I'm going to make a little bit of a green. I'm going to hit it with a speck of burnt sienna and some white. Put a little bit more blue in that. Phthalo blue would have been a nice mixture for this, because that blue leads towards green, where ultramarine blue leads towards violet. All right, so just that. And I'm going to come in, I can choose, okay, well, I'm going to deepen this a little bit more. I'm going to take a little bit of ultramarine blue, a little bit of quinacridone violet, a little bit of burnt sienna, a bit more blue. It's going to gray it down. Let's go in here. I'm still basically blocking stuff in, starting to dry. Going to a little bit of white. And then really the reference photograph could tell you, give you a really good idea of which way you should be painting this. I like starting off with a dark base. And let's just flatten this out a little bit more. I'm going to smooth this out. Now if I just take a mist of water, now I have it smooth. Again, if it's tacky, you don't want your paint to be lifting up. So just, and only you'll know by the feeling. And I'm looking at this now and I'm thinking I probably should have used phthalo blue, because I'm looking at this and the phthalo blue is really what I would have liked to have seen. Oh, that just means another painting study. I like this area nice and dark. So you can see that there's the different textures in here, different layers. Make sure you don't paint everything flat. Make Make it a little bit darker here. And what I mean, don't paint everything flat. Don't paint it a solid color. Have all these different things taking place. Use those X strokes, those wide X strokes. The water is going to be calm, but we don't want it to look like a airbrush painting. We do want to have a little bit of motion in there. Now you can see how many times I went over this. When you're painting on your own, not looking at a monitor, not looking at a camera and all this stuff, you'll be able to whip this part off, just to this base part here, in about 5 minutes. See how I've got a long line here, long line here? I can break that up, putting an X in there, and just accentuating that. See all those nice values in there? So at this stage now, I'm going to let this dry. I'm trying to use up all the paint I have on my brush. I'm going to let this dry, and then the next layer we're going to come in and start putting some nice little details. It's nice and dry now. I did bring out some phthalo blue. I know I cheated. So what I'm going to do is where's that extender? Let me just reach here. I'm going to grab a little bit of extender. I have a little palette paper in front of me. And I'm going to take my large brush, the one I used in the beginning, and I'll just blot it. Take that extender, and this will help me do my wet on wet painting without basically wetting this. Water for me right now is drying way too fast. Now this extender is like a gel. You can use the Traditions extender, which is more liquid. Now you can't see that. Right here and right here, the paint is lifting up. It wasn't quite dry. That's okay. So we'll see what happens with this. I'm just going to rinse that brush, and then we'll just put it over here. Then I'm going to go to my little number 10 bright, and let's go. So I'm just going to pick up some white, and I'm going to make it a little bit more lighter than normal. And let's see right here. Nope, not blue enough. There we go. I'm thinking right in here, and now I'm just using these wide strokes. And this could be a reflection in the sky. Okay, camera's having a hard time focusing. This could be a reflection in the sky. And with the addition of the extender, everything becomes more transparent. So the color that's underneath is going to show through. This will take longer to dry. I'm going to blot my brush, pick up a bit more phthalo blue. We'll go right about to here. And the light areas on your painting, the phthalo blue will really stand out. So I'm liking that, so I'm going to let that sit. I'm going to go back into a little bit more ultramarine blue and come right in here on my dirty brush. A little bit of ultramarine blue and phthalo blue. And when you're painting calm water, because water is transparent, you've got all those layers underneath. This is what's going to make it look really nice. Phthalo blue, ultramarine blue, and let's go right in here. This is best suited for, like I said, wet on wet painting. So you know, so I'm still using it. So I'm still using my X strokes, but they're wider. Like I'm not going like this, but I'm going like this. You need dark to show light. So if you wanted to put when we put the little movements of water, little Let me try that again. Little ripples of water to suggest movement. It won't show up if your painting is too light. All right. I want to make sure I keep that area more blue-green. Now, this is where the magic of the mop brush comes in. Clean mop brush. You use goat hairbrush if you want. Now watch. Just tickle the surface. What you're doing, you're picking up the excess paint and you're also doing a super light blend. This is a technique used very frequently in oil painting. It's also used to change the direction, so I can just go up this way to change the direction of the water. X strokes does more of a blend. You can also go this way. I'm just going to do my X strokes just to diffuse that. It's a little bit heavy, so watch what I do. Just keep blending it out, blending it out, blending it out, blending it out. There we go. And over here it's going to be more wide. Right here, just blending it out a little bit more. And this step you can do as many times as you want. So see this, how it kind of goes up like this? I can come right in here and bring that down just to make that a little bit deeper. I can bring this up, bring this down. So although this water is calm, there is movement in it. So just by making things really subtle, put some really nice interest in there. And then from here you can put your big rocks in that. You can see from the reference photo, some rocks here. Up to you how you want to do that. You can, let's see, you can put a rock here, you can put rocks here, looking at my photo, rocks here, and there's a rock here and a rock here. Then basically you have water with rocks. And then what you can do is there's also a reflection in here of a tree, and you know, for a focal point on one of the rocks that's sitting out here, you can put a bird. So, and once you've used that brush, you know, you have to rinse it, but you then can't put it back onto the painting because you're gonna be putting water on it. So you have to, you know, basically just get a fresh mop brush. Now to add little ripples, you know, to more detail, I'm gonna try with my little bright here, and I went into ultramarine blue, so I went to phthalo blue. And right in here, I'm just going to, you probably can't, now you would, before putting the ripples in, you would paint your rocks first. The ripples would basically be at the end, because you don't want ripples, you know, depending on where the rocks are, you don't want ripples going into a rock. You want it to kind of go around. And this little flat brush, although it's nice, actually that's not too bad. I'm thinking I want to try the round brush. So just little ripples. Let me try the round brush. I'm going to wet it into a little bit of water. Let me grab a little bit more white. You don't want to put too much white in there. And ideally you want it to be about 2 values lighter than what you're painting. Here we go. And it does look strong, but it's going to dry a little bit darker. And because there's the extender on here, that's going to help level everything out. Like I'm putting the stroke on there and I can see it kind of just sinking in there. Now again, this doesn't make any sense as a painting study by itself. Putting the other elements around will help, it'll make more sense. But so you're just putting little lines in like this just to suggest the movement of water. And I'm just kind of making little X's and little squiggles. And if there was a rock here, you could do it like that. Okay. And if I wanted to put a little wave, let's say there was a rock and see there's movement coming in, you would just make them more like X strokes. but you're going to be basically picking the areas that have like the dark blue, and you can put the movement right in there. And this extender worked out really, really well. I've got the air conditioner on in the other room because of the really, really bad heat. So it is still warm in here, but not as bad as it was before. Okay, too busy talking. I made a big mess here, so let's really accentuate that mess. First of all, there's a piece of dried paint in there. I'm going to blot that off. So see how, oh, achoo, I sneezed, and that's what I did. How do you fix that? Well, I could take my mop brush. That's an easy one. But because this is so wet, I can take my little Bristle Bright and just come around, take a little more ultramarine blue. Let's just take some of even this, and just come in. Oh, you know what? I like that. I'm going to leave that. The dark part in there. So you can come in. Now, because I left that there, I've got some dark areas there. Let's put some other places. We're just putting some dark areas. And what that is, that's just some of the paint clumps is the paint that's on the palette paper. And just to blend it out a little bit. You know what else you can use? Oh, let's see if I can reach it. Oh, I don't know if I... No, I don't. Shoot. You can use, if you have a fan brush, I'm not a fan of fan brushes, get it? A fan of fan brushes for trees and that because of the pattern, but I've got this little Moderna brush. It's a mixed media, it's an all media brush. Very soft edge. Any soft brush. And then you can just blend that out. Mop brushes, though, are so inexpensive. The soft grip, this line here, mop brushes, to me, are probably one of the best. So you can just blend that out a little bit. But a fan brush will work for the purpose of this. This is a little bit small. Let me go to a bigger one. Looking on my brush rack to see if I've got a fan brush close by, but I don't. So just blending that out a little bit. Oh, landscapers are here. There we go. So just, and what you're doing is you're just diffusing the lines that you put in there. Let's see, I did a correction. Now I'm just going to come back. So if you can master this type of blending, there's something there. If you can master this type of blending, then you're good to go. Now I did the correction here. I would have to probably come in here and put another layer of paint. Actually, I'm thinking that this came off of the actual mop brush, the first mop brush. I'll show you that. I didn't fluff it. Always fluff your mop brushes before using them. And if you have a mop brush that you're using for drawing, do not use it for painting and then bring it back. Keep your mop brushes for drawing, only for drawing. Blend that out a bit more. See the hair? All I'm doing is just catching it and then blending. These are acrylics. They're so forgiving. Put that in water. Now, I'm going to let that dry. This is all dry now. And with the extender, it took about 40 minutes for this to dry. So that works out to be really, really great. So this is the extender. That's the Americana Premium extender because it's more of a thick gel. So if you're in a hurry to paint, then don't use the extender. So this worked out really, really well, nice and dry. But I wanted to show you, if you didn't have the mop brushes, that these are some of the fans that you can use. And all you're going to do is the same thing, is just tickle the surface, and you're just going to go around. And I will be doing a painting study, creating a study of water using the fan brushes, because I know a lot of people have them and you don't know what to do with them. so just gonna bring these here. Here we go. So you've got the Taklons. Okay, one's from the Majestic and one's just one from one of the Royal painting kits that I did. Okay, and you can tell, you know, quality. This is like a real beginner brush, and this is more of a professional brush. You can see the bristles are nice and round. There's lots of them, whereas the beginner ones, you know, they're meant for beginners and meant for learning. So, you know, they're even great for children, because you don't want children using these brushes unless your children are, you know, aspiring artists. But, you know, big difference in price point as well. So for where we are doing this, I would use this one here. Okay, and then you also have them in the Bristle. Now this is same as this. This is for the oil kit. This is for an acrylic kit. So again, bristles are much smaller. Then this is the Sable Tech, which I love. Now the Sable Tech feels like sable, and nice and wide, super useful, especially for painting. If you're dusting out clouds, water, anything that's mesmerizing, portraits, anything where you need something soft. So if, I did a painting of a cat where the cat was coming towards, and what I did is I fuzzed out the back end and the tail just to diffuse it, and it set it right back in the distance so the focus was on her face. So that's really good. So again, with this, just same thing as the mop. You're just gonna, you know, the technique doesn't change, it's just the brush is different. So you're going to do that as well. But so this is dry, so this is ready to go now. So the only change I really made with this was just bringing in the addition of the Phthalo blue. That was really the only addition to that. And it did make a huge difference in here. So create your painting study. So just water. Don't even think of rocks. You can look at the reference photos, the challenge photos, and create your painting of water. Use your limited palette. Okay, use your limited palette. Don't start bringing out, you know, whatever colors you have, sky blue, ocean blue, whatever pre-mixed colors. Use your limited palette. Visually, use your eyes to see the color. And if you're not sure what true underlying color you have, so let's say you have a paint, you have no idea, let's say you just have the Americana paints or the chalky paints, take white with a little bit of the paint, and that'll show you the true underlying color. This is a blue that leans towards green. That's an easy one to see. And if I go here, add a bit more, and this is a blue, try that again. This is a blue that leans towards violet. I don't even have to tell you what the name of the color is. A blue that leans towards green and a blue that leans towards violet. That's what you need to know. You need to know where the color sits on the color wheel. Doesn't matter about the name. All right, so create this, and I'm going to clean up and then get ready to do another painting study again, just using the fan brushes, so that way you can experiment. The brushes that I'm showing you to use, the paints that I'm showing you to use, the colors that I'm using may or may not be what you have. Use what you have, experiment, see what happens, because there are no mistakes. To me, mistakes are just the universe telling you, try doing it a different way and see what happens. All right, so cleaning up, getting ready for the next one. So until I see you in the next lesson, stay inspired.